Hey everyone, and welcome to 10x Copywriting. This is a course that is designed to help you become a better writer, write better copy, and make more sales. During today's presentation, we're going to start with section 1 of the course, which is going to be based around research and creating your avatar. The purpose of this course, of course, is to increase your sales, even if you hate writing and if you've never written copy before. I'm very glad you're here. Welcome. Let's get started. I want to start off with a statement. It's a very, very important statement. And it's something that I wish everybody paid attention to more, because I believe, and I believe the data backs this up, that if we all knew why our business would be successful or would fail, we would pay more attention to what actually matters. So with that, let's take a look at some data. Did you know that most businesses fail? It's true. It's an unfortunate statistic. Most businesses, especially young companies, fail. Data from the BLS shows that approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open, 45% during the first 5 years, and 65% during the first 10 years. It's very, very rare to have a company that can sustain long-term and continuously drive revenues and drive profits. Why do you think that is? This was some information that I pulled from Investopedia, from the Investopedia website. So why do businesses fail? Well, according to Investopedia, it's one of 6 reasons. A business might fail because it's not satisfying a need, because they have a bad business plan, because of lack of financing, they just couldn't raise enough money. Do you think it's because they have a bad location, because they're inflexible, or because of rapid expansion? This is what Investopedia thinks. I'm here to tell you that this is all wrong. Don't pay any attention to these reasons. Don't give yourself an excuse, or don't let yourself off the hook if your business is struggling by telling yourself that you're falling short on one of these reasons. There's only one reason that businesses fail. The only reason that businesses fail is because they run out of money. It's unfortunate for most people that sales is where they feel most uncomfortable, and sales is where they feel they lack in terms of skill set. I remember feeling this way. I feel very, very, very fortunate that the first job I got when I moved to South Florida almost 15 years ago now was in a phone room. I couldn't find a job. I was very uneducated and I was very unskilled. And I stumbled into a phone room. I was selling medical supplies, mostly diabetic strips and catheters and back braces, and sometimes even wheelchairs and some of those elevators that bring people up their stairs in their wheelchair. And I was forced to sit in a room and make 100 to 120 cold calls every day to try to meet people and to try to convince them to buy some medical equipment from us. And it was terrible and it was really hard. But over time, I really, really learned to love it, and I learned to appreciate it. And I learned to accept the reality that sales is the most important skill that anybody can have in business. And if it weren't for that experience, I really, really wouldn't be where I am today, because it catapulted me into being willing to learn sales and being willing to push past that discomfort that is basically exposing yourself and promoting yourself to other people. So we're going to keep this lesson as an undertone for the rest of the entire course, and especially on this section worth of lessons. The only reason that businesses fail is because they run out of money. No matter what the challenge is that you're facing in your business, if you can increase your sales, then you can survive. And if you can survive, you can adapt. And if you can adapt, you can take advantage of new opportunities and grow, and you can thrive. And that's really, really what we want. The purpose of this course is to help you make more sales. First and foremost, we want to make more sales. This isn't about more followers. This isn't about likes and shares and engagement. This isn't about being popular on social media. This is about making more money. And it's very important I'm going to reiterate this fact over and over again. It's very important that we never lose sight of that, because what is the point of working so hard if you're not going to make money out of it? Doesn't make any sense. This is our career. This is our profession. This is our business. The purpose of this course is to help you make money. In addition, we're going to create a framework for you for your copy. This framework really, really helped me, because in the beginning, I used to struggle so much at staring at the blank page and staring at that cursor and thinking, what on earth am I going to write? Whereas once I learned some of these frameworks, it made it a lot easier to break the process down into little steps and take it one step at a time, where I could create a culmination of work that would eventually turn into a sales page or a sales pitch or a presentation of some kind. In addition, we're going to put you in different mind frames depending on what your immediate goal is. I have some mental exercises that I do, and I continue to do almost every day, that are going to allow me to approach my writing a little bit differently depending on what my immediate goal is. So for instance, if I'm writing copy, if I'm creating a sales page, I'm going to approach that in a different headspace than I would if I'm writing a blog post, or if I'm writing a quick email to get somebody to click on a link, or even if I'm writing a social media post. So I'm going to approach all of these with a little bit different headspace, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Lastly, I'm going to show you that copy is everywhere. Everywhere you go, every interaction you have the opportunity to to apply these lessons to your life. And if you start seeing the world through the lens of copy, through ideas, through emotion, through persuasion, all of your interactions are going to be more fulfilling, and a little bit more pragmatically, they're going to continuously feed you both in your career and your goals and just achieving what you want to achieve. Everything is copy. Section 1, research and Fred. These are the basics. The basics are going to get you 90% of the way there. First things first, before we go any further, it's very, very important that I give credit where credit is due. I believe that there's really no such thing as original ideas. Everything I have learned about writing copy, I learned from somebody else. And it is an honor and a privilege to be able to pass that information on to you. However, it would be bad vibes, bad juju if I didn't at least give credit to where credit is due. So here are my favorite resources that have had the biggest impact on me. First and foremost is Copyblogger. Copyblogger completely changed my life. I remember I told you I was selling medical supplies in a phone room, and it was at this point that I created my first blog. About 6 months into my journey of blogging, I started discovering that people were coming to my website. And I thought, oh my gosh, how are people coming to my website? And that's how I discovered SEO. And through SEO, I discovered Copyblogger, and I learned that there's a whole new way to become a writer. My dream was always to be a writer. And with Copyblogger, I discovered that I didn't have to write a novel. I didn't have to write a book. I could write on the internet, and I could write in a way that would build an audience around my ideas. And through those ideas and through establishing myself as an authority, I was able to build a business. So because of Copyblogger, I created my first website, Sober Nation. I created my marketing agency, stodstheinternetmarketing.com. I created a whole bunch of little local media sites, all through what I learned at Copyblogger. I built my personal brand, timstodds.com, and eventually got to the point where I was able to become a partner in Copyblogger, and it came full circle. So Copybloggers had a huge influence on me. If you want to learn, read Copyblogger every day, just like I did. All right, the second place. This is a course on thrivethemes.com. It's a very short, I shouldn't say short, it was about 2 hours long, but it was a very simple course. It was 12 videos, I believe. And with this course, I learned how to transition my audience into actual sales. With Copyblogger, I learned how to be a blogger. I learned how to build an audience, how to build an email list, but I still didn't necessarily understand how to take my audience and sell them things. I didn't understand sales copy. And this course removed my intimidations with sales copy. After taking this course, I was able to build some basic products and and create some of my first sales pages. So if you go to agencyclarity.com, that was one of the sales pages that I wrote uh, about 5 years ago when I first took this course. The same thing with my paid newsletter. And you can see all of those sales pages on timstodds.com. I'll put some links in the notes. Last but not least, this book called Copywriting Secrets. This was the best copywriting book I've ever read in my life. And I've read a lot of copywriting books. I really, really, really highly recommend everybody read this book. This book totally brought me up to another level to where I now consider myself like an expert copywriter, especially with the ability to write sales pages. Between Copyblogger, between this course right here, thrivethemes.com/courses/sales-page-blueprint, and this book, if you want to go higher level, I invite you to take on it, to read and watch the videos and absorb yourself in all these resources. All right, next section. What makes copy great? The answer is that it converts. A sales page that doesn't sell isn't great copy. In order for copy to be great, it needs to be effective. Copywriting is any communication, written, spoken, and visual, designed to persuade the right person to take a specific action. So it's very important that we define what copywriting is. Copy is any communication. Notice how communication isn't just writing, written, spoken, and visual, that is designed to persuade the right person to take a specific action. Copywriting is just as much about who you're not speaking to as it is who you're speaking to. And in a lot of this section, we're going to iron out exactly who it is that we're speaking to, and sometimes more importantly, who we're not speaking to. I want you to think of everything as copy. This word right here, copy, is derived from a Latin word. I don't know how to pronounce it, so please don't make fun of me, but I assume it's capea. And the word means an abundance of writing. And so I always hear the word copy as floods of ideas, an endless flow of inspiration, an endless flow of experiences or maybe thoughts that I have. All of them lead to this idea of creating something that can help other people. So when you hear the word copy, don't think of it in terms of like a systematic formula. Don't think of it in terms of being like militarism, whereas it's very disciplined and it's very strict and you have to abide by a certain set of principles. It's not like that. Copy is very much about creating abundance, about flowing energy through the events and experiences that inspire you and putting them out into the world in whatever form you want. So copy can be the written word. Obviously, this is going to manifest itself in the form of sales pages. This will manifest itself in the form of blog posts. That's my personal favorite form of copywriting. In addition, it'll be emails that you write. It'll be text messages that you send. It'll be anytime you're having a conversation with somebody back and forth through email, trying to maybe make an argument as to your side of the story, or trying to persuade somebody to hang out with you on the weekend when they may not want to. Copy can be in your conversations. This was a huge lesson for me. I grew up very, very shy and painfully awkward, and speaking to people was painful. It was painful. And after I first learned how to write copy, I then learned how to speak copy. I then learned how to recognize these patterns and these exercises in all of my conversations, whether that's a sales pitch, it could be a presentation like I'm giving to you right now. It could be an on-stage presentation. Since applying copywriting into my life, I'm now asked to speak at conferences. I'm speaking at the CEX conference in Cleveland in May. I just got asked to speak to another conference right outside of Nashville next month. And if it weren't for the ability to apply these principles into my life and my communication, I would never be able to speak copy. And finally, copy can be in your visuals. This is a very, very underappreciated and under-recognized form of copy. Some of the most persuasive ads or ideas that all of us see on any day are through memes or through visuals on social media. So visual copy can be the web design, the way that you visually format your ideas in the right order. It really can be a meme. Think of some of the ideas that have spread through our society the fastest. Almost all of them have been memes. Copy can be a video that you put together. It doesn't even necessarily have to have audio to it. You can tell stories through video and you can tell stories visually. Copy is everything. Copy is everywhere. I really want you to recognize that. Great copy feels like a conversation. Not to hit you with one of the most important points right here. Great copy feels like a conversation because great copy is emotional. Great copy appeals to emotion. So I want you to think back to, so I was watching YouTube with my wife and with my kids the other day, and for whatever reason, a live performance of Fast Car by Tracy Chapman came on. And I looked over to my wife and I was like, what is it about this song that just makes everybody feel a certain way? And my wife said something like, it always makes you feel like there was a time in your life that was just a little bit better than now. And we're talking about nostalgia. And that feeling is really what we're trying to do with our copy. I use the word persuade in this presentation, but really persuasion isn't the right idea. It's something that we all understand. And I think obviously it's a fair word to use, but what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to be evocative. Evocative means showing emotion. Evocative means somehow relaying the visual, relaying the feeling that you get when you're listening to a song, or maybe you smell something that reminds you of being a kid. For me, I think of the smell of a fresh cut grass. Every time I smell grass, it makes me think of playing lacrosse. When I was in middle school and high school, I was a really, really good lacrosse player, and it was a big part of my life. And every time I smell grass, I think about playing lacrosse. That's what it means to be evocative. So let's look at this picture. I'm assuming every single person watching this presentation knows what this picture is. If somehow you don't, this picture is from the 1984 Super Bowl commercial that advertised the Macintosh. The Macintosh was one of the first and most successful products that Apple, yes, that Apple ever released. And what's so brilliant about this Super Bowl commercial is the entire commercial went by without ever mentioning the product. It never talked about the computer. It wasn't until the very, very end of the actual commercial where you knew the commercial was advertising Apple as a company. But what this commercial did is it inspired emotion. It truly, truly made people fear becoming robots, becoming cogs in the machine. And this woman who threw the hammer through the screen, which was, you know, the representation of like authoritarianism, was the savior. It was the release of creativity and of free expression and of ideas. And this commercial released emotion, maybe more than any other commercial in history. I think there's a couple other ones that may come to the top of mind that we can think of as examples, but this is probably the most famous commercial in the history of advertising, and they hardly ever mention the product. That's what it means to be evocative. All right, now we're going to talk about your reason why. If you learn one thing from this presentation, it should be this. It should be your reason why. When you discover the reason why, the rest of the process of research and of meeting Fred, and even when we get into section 2 and 3 and 4 about putting your sales page together and how to promote your products through email and marketing, all of it becomes a lot easier when you understand this concept. People don't buy without a reason why. Okay, say this with me. People don't buy without a reason why. One more time. People don't buy without a reason why. I want you to drill this into your head, and I promise I'll stop yelling at you. People don't buy without a reason why. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It could be chapstick. It could be kitchen supplies, like a knife set or something like that. It could be a digital product, like a lot of the people watching this presentation are trying to sell. It could be this microphone, could be a piece of clothing. The only reason that people buy anything is because they have a reason, that they have a why. There's an emotional need that they are fulfilling. The truth is, hardly any of the things we buy because we need them. Most of our needs are met in terms of survivalism. There's not a whole lot that we as human beings need to survive. Almost all of the things that we buy through emotion. We have a reason, a deep-seated reason that fulfills some kind of emotional need to buy the product or service that we're buying. People don't buy without a reason why. If you can't remember that one, I made it as easy as possible. Drill that into your head. Okay, so let's really get into the specifics. We've talked about some higher level concepts so far during this course and during 10x copywriting, but this is where it's going to start to get a little bit more technical and where some of these exercises are really going to start coming into play. So these are the 5 reasons why people buy. I should have highlighted the word why and made it bold and made it red and obnoxious. People buy: 1, to make money; 2, to save money; 3, to save time; 4, to avoid effort; and 5, to avoid pain. A little caveat: really, all the decisions we make are based on 2 criteria. All of the decisions, everything that we do is based on 2 criteria. Some people say we make decisions based on fear or love. Other people say we make decisions based on increasing pleasure or decreasing pain. And this is important. More on this later. So before you go any further, I want you to take out a piece of paper, not right now. Do this exercise later. Come back to it. We're going to finish the sections in this course, in this presentation. But you want to take out a piece of paper and write down answers to these questions. I want you to really push yourself here. When you go through these 5 questions, there's usually 2 or 3 answers that come to mind right away. Is when you start getting into reason 10, reason 20, let's get crazy and go reason 30. That some of the real deep-seated emotional whys start to come out. And so this exercise is important. This is the first thing I do before I launch any product, including Copywriter Academy. I spent a week writing out these exercises. So the first question that I want you to answer is, what are the ways my product or service will help them make money? The second question, how can I or my product or service help them save money over the next week, month, year? Question 3, how much time can I save them? And how else and what else could they do with that time? Excuse me, I have a little grammatical error there. I'm going to read that one again. How much time can I save them? And what else could they do with that time? The second part is really important. You're not only saving them time, you're replacing their time with something that is pleasurable. Question 4, what is something they don't have to do anymore once they get my product or service? This helps them avoid effort. Question 5, what physical or mental pain do I eliminate for them? And what does it mean for their life and their business? Pause here for a second, because I'm sure everybody is reflecting on their own product and service and starting to answer these questions in their head. Really, really challenge yourself. I promise you, the first 3 to 4 are going to come right out. Come up with as many reasons as you possibly can, and do so knowing that the vast majority of them aren't going to be any good. But there's some diamonds in there. You just got to dig for them. I promise you. Really challenge yourself here. Okay. Now we're going to talk about pleasure and pain. This is a visual exercise, and I hope that you keep an open mind. It can be a little strange for people to do visual exercises, especially when it's meditating. I'm a little bit into meditation. I don't know if anybody watching this course is into meditation, but if you are, this isn't going to seem too far-fetched for you. But it's a really, really important and effective visual meditation that is going to put you in the position of your ideal customer. So get out a notebook, go to a quiet room. I want you to answer these questions first in your mind and then write them down as they come to you. First, we're talking about seeking pleasure. What would it feel like to not have to worry about insert whatever problem here that you're trying to solve? I have a great example of this. This is actually how I created my first digital product. Last January, I went to Miami with my wife and our son at the time. He was a little under a year old. And we got a Airbnb in South Beach for a month. And there was something that we really, really looked forward to. Obviously, there was COVID and I'd been working my butt off, working way too much. And my wife was going through her pregnancy and she had a very, very difficult pregnancy. And this was just our time to hang out. What happened is while I was there, I got a terrible, terrible ear infection. It was one of the most painful experiences of my entire life. My eardrum exploded. I had these terrible nightmares of people sticking knives and screwdrivers in my ear. And unfortunately, my marketing agency, Stodzy, it depended on me so much that I wasn't able to just be sick and to relax on the beach. So here I am in one of my favorite cities in the world with all of my favorite people doing a thing that I've looked forward to doing for months. And I can't even step away for 1 second from my company because it depended on me so much. And that realization was the feeling that I was looking for. And that was how I knew that I needed to create systems and processes for my own agency. And although in this case, it's a little meta because I was kind of solving my own problem, there really was a moment where there was this feeling that I was searching for. There was a skate park across the street from where we were staying, and I was watching all these kids skateboarding, and I was just visualizing hanging out there with my son because I was a big skateboarder when I was a kid, and I couldn't do it because I was stuck working because the company couldn't exist without me. And I was chasing that feeling, and through that feeling, I was able to create my first product, which is Agency Clarity. So please take a moment, not now, but when you do this exercise, really visualize that feeling. So what comfort would I feel? I could feel the sun coming down on me. I could hear the very familiar sound of skateboards, the clunking noise that they make when people land a trick, and the smooth, like, of the wheels on a nice smooth, like, cement surface of a skate park, which is a sound that I grew up with. I could really feel that comfort of what it would be like just sitting there with my little boy and watching them. Another one, what would it feel like to win? I really, really, really invite you to dig into people's egos here. I am extremely motivated continuously by a company that I compete with who is always saying bad things about me. Obviously, they're undeserved. Obviously, we have like the most reputable company in the entire space, and this person is just threatened by me. And so they say bad things about me to all of my potential clients because we're competitors. And this feeling, it motivates me so much. Even just feeling, notice the word feeling, that feeling right now, it's something that is very, very motivating for people. So as you're visualizing the pleasure that you're trying to instill on your potential customer, try to think about what it would feel like for them to win. Like, what's their competition? What's the competition they have in their mind? And try to embark that upon them. Avoiding pain. Once again, let's visualize. What problem does your customer have? I want you to try to put yourself in her position as much as you can. What is her problem? What's driving them nuts? How much time are they losing trying to fix this problem? Once again, using the analogy that I did before, it drove me crazy that I was losing so much time on the phone talking to my employees and trying to manage this crisis that I was dealing with. I was wasting a ton of energy. How much energy is your ideal customer wasting that you could solve for them with your product or service? How much sanity are they losing? And a good way to frame this, which makes it so that you don't have to get so specific, is just ask yourself, what keeps them up at night? Is it bills? Is it the fact that the next day they're just completely overloaded with work and they feel like they're not spending enough time with their family? Is it, some kind of anxiety of letting somebody down? What keeps them up at night? That's a really, really good, easy way to put this into a position that makes it like more digestible for you. All right. Now we're going to meet Fred. Fred is a very special boy. And Fred is basically your avatar. This is a concrete way for you to discover your ideal customer. And do not take this lightly, because this is going to make the entire process so much easier for you. So let's meet Fred. Before we meet Fred, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise. We're going to talk about demographics. In order to meet Fred, to discover Fred, you have to discover who Fred is. And most marketers, especially people who advertise on Facebook and on Google, look at demographics. And this is going to be a short exercise as to why demographics is a very poor mechanism to discover your ideal customer. So we have a person. We have a customer who is born in 1948. This is our ideal customer. They have a nationality from Great Britain. They're Caucasian. They're male. Their marital status is divorced with children. They have a high income. We're going to get so specific that we want to talk to only princes. And we're going to talk to only princes who live in a castle. Who am I talking about? Am I talking about formerly Prince Charles, now King Charles? Or am I talking about the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne? If we look at our target customer from a demographic standpoint, it's very, very, very difficult to get into the mind and to, more importantly, get into the emotions of our ideal customer. So I'm going to go back for just 1 second. Let's look at these demographics again. All of these demographics paint a very, very specific picture of who we're looking for, but they really don't do that. So what we want to look for is psychographics. That's why we pay attention to psychographics. Your psychographics is your niche. It's really just a fancy way of saying niche. And yes, I say niche and not niche. I'm going to put that one out there because people always make fun of me for it. But your niche is not data. People always think of niche as being data. People always think of your target customer and the demographics associated with them. But your niche is people. Data is not people. You're selling to people. You're not selling to a spreadsheet. And you really, really, really have to make the distinction between the two, because the biggest mistake I see, especially advertisers, the biggest mistake I see people who are running ads make is they think that they're talking to a number profile. They think that everybody fits in these very secular different categories, but they don't. People fit into niches, yes, but they don't fit into demographics as cleanly as you think they would. So what are the 3 types of niches? First, this is your top level niche. So let's imagine you're targeting people in real estate. Okay, great. Number 2 is your sub niche. So this is real estate investors. If we're only targeting the niche, you could be targeting contractors. You could be talking about maybe mortgage brokers. You could be talking about property developers. All of those people are in real estate. So that's not really specific enough. So we're going to go down one level. We're going to talk about real estate investors. And then finally, we're going to go down to a micro niche, which is house flippers. You can do this for any industry. It can be a creative exercise, because obviously there's going to be like more than one way to do this depending on whatever industry or whatever landscape of professionalism you're looking into. But off the top of my head, I could think you could do entrepreneurs. That's your top level niche. Okay, great. What kind of entrepreneurs? Well, you could do digital entrepreneurs. Well, that's cool, but that still doesn't really specify it enough. And then your micro niche could be people who have marketing agencies, right? Okay, now we're talking to a specific person. Now we're able to identify the psychographics of that person, because people who run, own, and operate marketing agencies have specific emotions attached to that job. And that is really what we're trying to solve for. All right. So let's get to know Fred. Yes, we're doing another writing exercise. What do people who live in the sub niche of your target customer feel? So we're going to write fears, results, expectations, and desires. We're going to line them up with a table. Excuse me. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. So on one side of the piece of paper, we'll put the fears, results, expectations, desires. And then on the other side of the piece of paper, we're going to list them out. Free association writing. Don't think about it too much. Next up, we're going to find Fred's PQR2. These are Fred's problems, questions, roadblocks, and results, meaning what are Fred's expectations? What is it that Fred is really, really looking for in terms of the desire that he is trying to fulfill? How do we discover Fred's PQR2? Well, this is research, and it's actually a lot easier than most people would think, because this is a stage where a lot of people get kind of flooded with data and thinking that they have to know the demographics, like the age and the median household income. It's not about that at all. Find the people who are in your sub niche, find Fred, and research the questions that Fred is asking. So you can do this on social media, obviously. My favorite place to do this is on Quora. Quora is a very, very underrated website. It has a ton of great information, and the information is very easy to find and very easy to digest. I also think people should do this on Reddit. Again, Reddit is a website that people are just more willing to openly and freely express themselves on Reddit, ask vulnerable questions, ask like real life advice about some kind of business challenge or a personal challenge that they have. So you can get a lot of the PQR2 data from Reddit. If you go to live events, do you ever go to conferences? Keep the notepad on your phone handy. Continuously search for the problems. Remember, everything is copy, right? We already talked about this. Every experience is copy, and web forms. I don't have to get into too much of the places where you can research Fred. The point is, you just have to research it. You have to actually do it. All right, and now we're going to create Fred. So this is the part where we're going to take that piece of paper and we're going to divide it up into a table. And on a piece of paper, we're going to write, once again, try to come up with as much as you possibly can, as many ideas as you possibly can. So what is Fred's micro niche? I talked about digital entrepreneurs that own and operate marketing agencies. That's a micro niche. What are Fred's top problems? I own a marketing agency. I can tell you that the top problem is always getting clients, making new relationships, making referrals, being afraid that the biggest client is going to cancel without notice. And then all of a sudden, my payroll is going to get chopped in half. What are Fred's top questions? Using the same example, some of the questions that I continuously ask myself is like, what are some of the conferences that I should attend? Are there any marketing strategies that other agencies aren't doing that I should be doing? Is there an opening? Is there some kind of opportunity that I'm not seeing that I should be seeing? What are Fred's top roadblocks? Roadblocks in the marketing space are payroll. Payroll is a hard one. My biggest expense is always payroll. We got $60,000, $70,000 a month in payroll expenses. That is definitely a roadblock. If I didn't have payroll, there would be a whole lot of other fun and creative marketing ideas that I would try to experiment with, but I can't. So if you were creating Fred and if I were your psychographic, how could you potentially alleviate the pain of payroll? So that's a great example. And what are the results that Fred wants? Well, You want to get clients, obviously. But remember, we talked about competition. When I asked myself that question, the first thing I thought of was just being number one out of the 4 or 5 different agencies that I compete with. It would really, really, really feel good to just be the biggest one. I've had many times where I was number one, and then I've had times where I maybe slouched down to number 2, or sometimes even on bad days, number 3. But when I'm winning the competition, I feel great. And that's not always relevant to the amount of sales or the amount of revenue I'm making. Obviously, the more revenue we have, the better off we're doing, but I don't correlate them the same. So I'm just saying that to you as an example that the results don't always have to be directly monetary. Do you remember those 5 questions that we asked ourselves? Like, yes, make money is one of the reasons why people do what they do, but people have more motivation than that. And you can discover that through your psychographic. So after you've created Fred, you have your whole entire roadmap laid out in front of you. This is called work. Every time I tell people about this process, I've gotten a couple eye rolls, especially I remember talking about this process to a class of high schoolers, or excuse me, it wasn't high school, it was college students. They were all writers. And I was talking about writing sales copy, and these kids couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that I was telling them to do all of this research. They just wanted an easy way to put a sales page together so that they would make sales. I'm telling you, yes, this might take you a week. It might take you 2 weeks to do all of these exercises. And some, I have a continuous swipe file of doing these visual exercises and these writing exercises to try to sell new products and new services that I'm working on. It never really ends, but this is the most important step. After you do this, the rest is going to be easy. This is the hard part. So the hard work is done. You can have money or you can have short-term gratification. You can't have both. I said that. I don't think I'm the first person to say that, which is why I quoted probably underneath it. But I remind myself of this a lot when I'm annoyed with the process, or when I'm sick of doing research, when I'm thinking to myself, I've already come up with all of the reasons why my ideal customer is going to want to buy everything. I don't need to do this anymore. I got 5 of them. I don't really need 10 or even 20. I don't need to do this. I do need to do this, and so do you, because you can have money or you can have short-term gratification, but you can't have both. If anybody else found somebody that said that before me, by the way, let me know, but I think I can coin that one. So like I said, the hard work is done. And this is where the fun begins. You have done all of the digging. You have ordered all of your parts. You have gotten all of your raw materials, and now you get to start building. So this is where it gets fun. Have you noticed we didn't even start writing our copy yet? We didn't start writing our sales page. We didn't start creating any blog posts. We didn't write any emails. All we did was research and think and research and observe and analyze and come up with a psychographic and discover and create Fred. That's because copy is all about communicating to the right person. If you know exactly who you're talking to, everything else is going to go better for you. This will save you money because you're not wasting money and resources trying to talk to people who don't matter. It'll save you time because you're not going to be dealing with customer service about people that aren't ideal for your product or service. You're not going to be wasting time going back and forth. It'll most definitely save you stress and confusion. I can't tell you how stressful it is to create a product, feel really good about it, feel really good about your sales copy, and just crickets. I've had crickets more than I've had home runs. The good news is that 1 or 2 home runs truly, truly, truly make the crickets not even a big deal, because your home runs are so big that the stress and confusion is kind of a moot point at the end of it. However, if I would have known then what I know now, that stress and confusion wouldn't even really exist. And more importantly, this is going to increase your profit margins. The less resources you spend discovering the right person, the better off you are communicating your message to that specific person, which means you're going to spend less money and create and convert more sales. And so that's going to increase your profit margins. And with that, all of your stress and all of the work is going to go down and all of the pleasure is going to go up. So our pleasure pain scale is going to go like this. You're going to do less work, less stress, more fun, more money. Thank you so much for paying attention to section 1, for going on this journey with me, for learning, for being open-minded about some of these visualization techniques that I always use. Please stay tuned for next week, because next week we're going to start putting your sales page together. We're going to take all the information that we learned. We're going to take our reasons why. We're going to take our psychographic data. We're going to take Fred and our Fred creation, and we're going to start putting our sales page together piece by piece so that we have a perfect sales page. And I really mean that. Our sales pages will be perfect because there's a formula, there's a blueprint that we're going to follow. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you next time. See you later.